So I want to welcome all of our Atlanta area churches. Excuse me. Somebody told me there's pollen in the air, and I think it just hit me right before I got up here. Anyway, I want to welcome all of our Atlanta area churches. Those of you who are watching from all over the country, people in parks. We got all kinds of people who say, hey, we got this group that we meet, travel around, hotels. If you're driving, I hope you're just listening, not watching. But all of our Atlanta area churches, and again, all over the country. It's so fun to expand this network of people who understand the difference between simply believing things and actually following Jesus. Because as we have discovered in our personal lives and as we're discovering in terms of making a difference in the world, it's what it's doing that makes the difference. And this is why Jesus called us to be doers, and his brother came around and said, don't just be hearers, be doers. So thank you for participating in this expanding network, not just of our churches, but churches all over the country and all over the world who are stepping out to get this right in this crazy culture that we live in. So thanks for joining us. Sorry. So today I want to begin with, this is just my opinion, which you don't come from my opinion, but this part is just my opinion. I want to begin with what I think is one of the most catalytic relational dynamics that goes under the radar that's pretty much, I feel like, sometimes overlooked by humankind. So one of the most important catalytic relational dynamics that is at play every single day in our lives, in most of our conversations, but we're not aware of it. So I want to surface it, make you aware of it, because this is a game changer when we can keep this front and center. So here it is. I made this up. It's a little clunky, and I'm going to read it twice, and then I'm going to talk about it. And it's basically this idea. The relationship you have with others is rarely the same relationship they have with you. The relationship, I see the confusion. I know, I'm gonna go slow. Okay, and I was trying to figure out how to make this clear, but anyway, I'm gonna illustrate it in a minute. The relationship that you have with others, all the people in your life, is rarely, sometimes it's the same, but it's rarely the same relationship they have with you. In other words, you're in a relationship with a lot of people, but it's rarely the same relationship. This is so important. And the easiest way to understand this is to think about the parent-child relationship. So parents, especially those of you with younger kids, think of it this way. Your child does not have the same relationship with you that you have with your child. You have a relationship with a child. Your child has a relationship with an adult. You have a relationship with someone for whom you are 100% responsible and they are 100% dependent on you. They have a relationship with someone who holds all the cards till about age 13. Then the cards start getting swapped around. But you know what? You see what I'm saying? It's the same relationship. You're in a relationship, but it is a very different relationship, right? This is why, and we all can relate to this, this is why we don't really get our parents until we become a parent. And then it's like, oh, right? It's like, then we start going, they weren't so, they were smarter than I thought they were. I mean, it's why because you can't really get your parents until you have your own child. That's when you begin to understand how they felt. That's when you begin to understand why they feared what they feared. That's when you begin to understand that what they experienced, because now you're experiencing it. That's why later in life, most of us go back to our parents and apologize, because we just didn't understand. Well, of course we couldn't. We had a relationship with our parents, but it is a very different relationship. And once we're on the other side of that relationship, then there's the kind of the oh moment. Now, that same dynamic, believe it or not, is at play in most of your relationships and in most of my relationships. And as easy and as obvious as I should say, it's not easy, as obvious as it is, we rarely take it into consideration when we think of our communication. I mean, another way of illustrating is this. At work, you have a relationship with your employer, or you have relationships with your employees, or you have a relationship with your manager, or you have a relationship with the people you manage, but it's not the same relationship. There's an inequality, right? You're friendly, but you can't really be actual friends. Now, you may disagree with that, but just think about it later. Whenever there's that kind of inequality, everybody's friendly, but you can't actually be friends because it's not the same relationship. This is true with older and younger siblings. Some of you can remember this growing up. Some of you got a dynamic going right now. The younger and the older, it's a relationship, but not until you're adults does it become the same relationship. There's an inequality. Here's the thing. Here's the point. There's an inequality whenever one party depends upon or needs the other. There's always an inequality when one party needs or depends upon the other. There's equal value. We're not saying that one person is less value. There's equal value, but there's unequal power, influence, and authority. And this baked in relational reality, this is not a problem to solve. This is just a tension that's always there. This baked in relational reality should govern how we communicate with each other, how we talk to each other. Specifically, it should influence the words that we choose. More on that in just a minute. Today, if you have been tracking along with this, or if you haven't, we are in part 2 of a series entitled The Weight of Your Words. The Weight of Your Words. And if you, and this is all of us, if you have ever been crushed by the weight of someone's words, I don't need to describe or explain what we're talking about because you get it. I get it. We have all been to some extent crushed by the weight of somebody's words, that we realize that words carry weight. They can leave a mark for good or bad. Words can build, words can destroy, words can undermine somebody's confidence, words can instill confidence, words can inspire, words can wound, right? I'm so proud of you. You embarrassed me tonight. I wouldn't miss it for the world. You're not needed here anymore. Our lives, I don't need to tell you this, but I'll tell you anyway, our lives, right, have been shaped. Our lives have been shaped by the words spoken to us, over us, about us, and sometimes we feel like words have been spoken at us. It impacted our childhood. It's impacting your marriage right now. It impacts your work environments. It impacts whether you enjoy what you do and where you do what you do professionally. It inflates or deflates our confidence. To some extent, the words spoken to us, over us, and at us impact who we see in the mirror in the morning. And while I don't think anybody would argue with any of that, while we're actually quick to understand and begin to realize and digest, the impact of other people's words on us or how they've affected us, even though we're quick to do that, we're often slow to recognize and even slower, and this is what we're gonna talk about, and even slower to take responsibility for how our words impact other people, which should bother all of us. But it should bother a group of us more than just others, because there's a group of us who are more accountable for our words than everybody else in the world, we think anyway, and that's not because we're better, it's just because we're more accountable. It should really bother some of us. It should really bother those of us, I should say, who are Jesus followers. Because as Jesus followers, not just Christians, not just believers, I mean people who wake up in the morning and to the best of your ability, to the best of my ability, I wanna follow Jesus. I wanna follow Jesus in my decisions, in my thinking, with my money, with my time, with the way I treat people. Those of us who are really dialed in and trying to follow Jesus, our words, it should really bother us when our words aren't in sync with that, because we have been called to be, the Apostle Paul would say, we've been called to be one another people. That we're to do everything we do with other people in mind. We're to do everything we do and everything we say with the benefit of other people in mind. We've been called to love one another and accept one another, to honor one another, to carry one another's burdens, to forgive one another. So this one anotherness should characterize us, which means everybody should pay attention to the words they use, but we of all people should pay very close attention to the words that we use, because our words carry weight, and our words carry more weight in certain relationships than others. So if you're not a Jesus follower, let me just say something to you real quick. If you're not a Jesus follower, isn't it true, and I'm not trying to read your mind, but have had lots of difficult conversations, isn't it true that if the Jesus followers or the Christians that you know had been more careful with their words, you might actually be more curious about their faith? If they had been more careful with the words they used about you and the people that you love, Isn't it true that you might be more curious about our faith or more open to our faith or even consider returning to the faith that you grew up with? The answer is yes. So we, as Jesus followers, are more accountable for and must be more careful with the words we choose. So in this series, what we're doing, and if you were here last time with us, we're gonna review just for a moment. In this series, we're actually unpacking three dynamics that impact or interface with every single conversation we have, three dynamics that determine what people hear regardless of what we actually say. And we've all been on the receiving end of all three of these, which means this should be easy for us. If we just do unto others as we want others to do unto us, or if we just speak unto others as we want others to speak unto us, if we would learn the hard lessons of how other people's words crushed us, and then decide I'm never gonna use words that crush anybody else, we should get this. This should be so simple. It should be so top of mind. But oftentimes, it's not. We miss it. So last time we talked about the first of these three dynamics, and number one was that words are not equally weighted. Words are not equally weighted. Some words weigh more than other words. And we said, and we all knew this before we got here, that negative words weigh way more than positive words. So we have to pay attention to our proportion. You've heard of portion control. This is proportion control that we need in our most important relationships, our most intimate relationships, to load up on the positives to prepare people for the negatives, because we can only receive the negatives if the negatives are not the majority of the words that are spoken to us, at us, or over us. So we talked about this, that the positives really prepare us and prepare others for the negatives. So today I want to talk about the second of these three dynamics. And the second one is this: words are not equally weighted, and the source determines the weight. The source of a word determines the weight of a word. The who said behind the what was said. Quick illustration. So ladies, for moms specifically, imagine this. So you're going to have, listen to your mom and you have a teenage daughter, but it's, you're at work and you decide to go have lunch with one of your girlfriends, or you're gonna have coffee with one of your girlfriends, and she gets there before you do, and you walk in, and when you walk up to the table, your girlfriend says, "Oh my goodness, you look great. That outfit, you just look so great." Those are 5-pound words. I mean, you appreciate it. But imagine that afternoon you're at home and your 15-year-old daughter walks by, stops, turns, and says, "Mom, you look great. You look so young. We could be sisters." And I know what you're thinking. I don't have that much imagination. If this is the resurrection of Jesus, an event like that would come in somewhere, I don't know where. I mean, that would be a miracle if my teenage daughter stopped in. Why? Why? Because those are 50-pound words. They're the same words, 5 pounds in the coffee shop, 50 pounds at home, not because of what was said, but because of who said them, right? I'll tell you where this intersects my life constantly. My administrative assistant, Diane Grant, she has worked with me for over 25 years, which means she either needs a standing ovation or a long vacation. But anyway, pray for Diane. And because we've known each other for so long, and because we have a great relationship and a great working relationship, she knows she has permission to say what I need to hear. And every once in a while, when I have to go give somebody some bad news, she'll say to me, remember, your words weigh a lot. Remember, your words weigh a lot. And every once in a while, not often, but every once in a while, she'll say, "Andy, let me go tell him. Let me go tell her, your words weigh too much." Now, why does she have to tell me to remember? I'm the one up here talking about this. I'm like the expert. I'm telling all of you guys to remember. No one should. I've got the sermon notes. I've got slides. Why would she have to tell me to remember that? Because I forget. Because at work, do you know who I see? I just see peers and friends, and we're all equal, and we all get along. But when I walk into somebody's office, or when I say, "Meet me at my office," they don't see a peer and a friend. They see the boss, right? So to tease this out just a little bit, because I want you to take this into all your relationships. This is such a game changer when we can keep it front and center. It goes like this. The source of the word determines the weight of a word. Weight determines impact. The heavier something is, the more impact, and the impact determines the outcome. So the source of the word determines the weight of the word. The weight determines the impact. Impact determines the outcome. Now, for those of you who are into physics, ignore all this, okay? I realize I'm messing with you. I'm not trying to do physics. I'm just talking about the relational reality of words. Just another illustration. Oftentimes, and this is a little strange for some of you to hear me say maybe, I'm often asked by leaders when I do leadership stuff and do Q&A with leaders, business leaders, church leaders, I'm almost always, there's 2 or 3 questions that always come up. And one, especially from pastors, is how do you deal with criticism? And I always say the same thing. What criticism? Who would criticize a pastor? I mean, anyway, so. And I know, actually what I say is, look, well, there's different kind of criticism, right? And you take certain criticism more seriously than other criticism. The source determines the weight. So when it comes to social media criticism, I handle it all the same way. The ones that I think are really good, I do screenshots. I keep them on a folder on my phone. I'm not making this up. A folder on my phone called Andy Haters. And when the kids are around, I show them the Andy Hater, and we just all laugh. So I brought a couple. Okay, these are old. The newer ones I can't even show you. Okay, so these are older ones. Okay, the kind of stuff I get. At Andy Stanley, you are a false teacher. The Lord has a nice warm place waiting for you on Judgment Day. You're laughing? Then I love this one because it was a guy, he's trying to be positive. Here's what he says. Sir, with all due respect, you're a false prophet from Satan's hell. And if you don't repent when you die and lift up your eyes in hellfire, you will be. Now, do these things hurt my feelings? No. But not because I'm so secure. I mean, if I walked into our board meeting, one of the board members said, Andy, before we start, I need to just say, and said something like this, okay, hang on. Okay, I'm taking that real serious because you guys can, fire me during this meeting. What have I done, right? But those other words don't carry much weight. Again, not because I'm so secure, but because of the source. Source determines the weight. Source determines weight. And source determines weight not just negatively, but source determines weight positively. If you ask Sandra, and Sandra and I, we were having dinner last night, and I said, I'm going to tell this story tomorrow. I want to get your permission. I've already got it in the notes, so I hope you say yes, but I want to tell the story, and I want to make sure I get it right. And so if you were to ask Sandra, hey, Sandra, what for you would you say was the most affirming mother moment, or the moment where you felt most affirmed as a mom? She will tell you about a short exchange between her and her dad many years ago. Andrew, our oldest, he's 30, and he's in a high chair in the kitchen. And she got up early, and she's down there, feeding him baby food, called it mush, and she's doing the poke and swipe, where you poke it in there and then swipe that bottom lip. She's got that whole thing going. Some of you relate to that. And her dad, mom and dad had spent the night with us, and her dad comes downstairs. And he sits down. He's a man of few words, okay? Bob, love Bob. But he's a man of few words. He sits down, he's watching her poke and swipe, feeding his grandson. And he says to her, and I quote, "You are a really good mom." Now, trust me, there were more epic, interesting, and affirming mother moments in Sandra's life than poke and swipe feeding a baby in a high chair, right? I mean, and come on, even bad mothers feed their babies, okay? So this isn't like, what? How do you do? No, this isn't that, right? But that's the point. It wasn't the what. It was the who. I mean, my wife's amazing, and those of you who are married, your wives are amazing too, but I mean, Sandra taught our kids to read, she taught them to write, she homeschooled them all for the first 10 years. She went bungee jumping, she learned to knit because Allie wanted to learn to knit, then Allie decided she didn't want to knit after Sandra had learned to knit, no problem. Sandra feigned gratitude one Christmas. One of our boys gave her spinners. Remember spinners for our minivan? That was her Christmas present. And she's like, this is amazing. Look at that, I can't wait. Well, these have been going in our car. I'm like, but anyway. She took them for 10 years to homeschool day at Six Flags. That's a thing, okay? The lines to the roller coasters are very short. Not because there are fewer people in the park. Homeschoolers are just not normally known for their bravery. But anyway, so she took for years, and sorry, all the homeschoolers. Anyway, I can say that because we homeschooled. Anyway, so in other words, she's had so many epic mother moments. But if you were to ask her, in fact, last night when I was making sure I got the details right, we both teared up because it wasn't what was said, it was who said it. What I'm trying to do for you today is I want to paint the picture of your potential in someone's life with your words. Source determines weight. Source determines weight. And this is unfair, I'll acknowledge it, and this isn't even politically correct to say, but it's true, whether we like it or not. And it's certainly not fair. Source determines weight. And often, a father's words, they weigh the most, positive or negatively. So, what do we do with this? This is just a relational reality. So what do we do with this? Here's the takeaway, and here's the application. Here's the thing, if we could just all get this right. And again, this isn't a Christian thing. This isn't a religious thing. This isn't, depends on your faith system. This is just a human thing. The application is simple. It's remember. It's what Diane says. Andy, remember. Remember who and what you represent to the person on the other side of you. Before you open your mouth, before you hit send, remember who you are and what you represent to the person on the other side of you. In any relationship where you have any advantage, in any relationship where you have any, don't miss this, where you have any unique role, you have an extraordinary opportunity relationally, because your words carry, in that relationship, your words carry additional weight. And I want to challenge you and encourage you to leverage that opportunity. Leverage that opportunity to inspire. Leverage that opportunity to instill confidence. Leverage that opportunity to change maybe what somebody sees in the mirror every morning. Use that opportunity to leverage it to protect and to direct. Now, real quick, I want to say something to all the middle school students and all the high school students. And those of you who are parents and your middle schoolers are in transit and your high school students aren't here or they're serving, this is one of those, the next 4 minutes is worth about $20 to get your kids to sit. In fact, I don't even have to tell you that, okay? But I want to say something to all the middle school and high school students that are listening. This is so important, okay? You have no idea, and it's not because you're dumb. Is because you've never been a parent. You have no idea how your words have the potential to positively impact your parents. You have no idea. And you have no idea how your words could positively impact your younger brother or younger sister. Now, I understand about the younger brother, younger sister thing. To you, your younger brother or younger sister is a gnat. It's like, why are they even here? You just want to just get away from me, right? Look up here. That means you hold all the cards. You have more power with your words to influence the future of your younger brother or sister than anyone else on the planet, maybe right now more than your parents. That's a lot of power. That's a lot of influence. And we miss it because we forget. Just because I'm in a relationship with you, it's not necessarily the same relationship. And students, your power in the lives of your parents, you have no idea. Quick illustration. Right after President Obama was elected in the election in November, his first time he was elected, and it's so interesting, whenever I bring up political stuff, I can feel is it going my way or the other way? Is it going my way or the other way? Is it going my way? Not y'all, most churches. Our churches, we're over that because, anyway, we have a king named Jesus. But anyway, when Obama was elected the first time, I got a call from his administration, which, shocking, saying, you've been invited to participate in the inaugural festivities, not the festivities, but there's this service that they do at the National Cathedral. We want you to have a part in that. And I'm like, really? This is amazing. But I also knew, and maybe you don't know this, if you're taking notes, you might want to write this down. Politics are not an emotionally neutral topic. Let me say it again. Politics right, okay? So I knew if I did this, then, there's gonna be some people that are like, oh, you shouldn't, you should, we're glad you did. Why you didn't do it for the Republicans? I mean, it just gets weird, okay? I think most of those people don't go to our churches anymore. But back then we were just kind of wading into how do we worship King Jesus as a group of people who disagree politically. And y'all are amazing. You've come such a long way. In fact, if this is one of your first times in one of our churches, you are around some extraordinary people. And some of them are just like you, and some of them don't normally like you, but they're gonna learn to like you because we're all following Jesus. So anyway, I just want to throw that in. So I'm driving down the road. I know exactly what road we're coming back home. I'm driving. Andrew, our oldest again, he's 15, about 15 years old, sitting in the passenger seat. And I said, Andrew, hey, I just got invited to participate, which is such an honor in this thing at the National Cathedral after our new president is inaugurated. And I said, but some people just aren't gonna like it. And I'm just thinking about how to handle this. And he says to me, I'll never forget this, my 15-year-old, Dad, if God gave you that opportunity, seems like you should take it regardless of what other people think. Peer pressure talk from the 15-year-old, right? Dad, don't give in to peer pressure. Just do what you think God wants you to do. So I went. My point is simply this. I'll never forget that. Students, look up here. You have no idea the leverage you have, for positive or negative, just with your words. So whether you're at home, at work, at school, whether you're talking to service providers on the phone, you just remember who you are and what you represent to the person on the other side of you. Mom and dad, okay, then I'm moving on. Look up here, mom and dad. When you walk into your son or daughter's room to deliver some bad news, you see someone who knew better and someone who needs to do better. Who do they see? They see the person whose approval they want more than anybody else in the world. It is not the same relationship. It is not the same relationship. Who we are and what we represent to the person on the other side of us should determine our words. Now, so far, this has been some great advice, but a really lousy sermon, right? Okay, in fact, some of you are like, if this is your first time, it's like, do they use the Bible here? Yes, we're getting to that. You should have been here for part one. It was like so much Bible, okay? So that's good advice. If you're not a Christian or you're a different faith tradition, not a religious person, hey, you can just take that and run with it. That will make your life better. It will make you better at life. But if you're a Christian, if you've placed your faith in Jesus, if you believe we have a king that supersedes all authority other than, he is the premier authority in our lives. If you've decided and are trying, maybe for the first time in a long time, to every day of your life to follow Jesus, the stakes are higher. This is not optional for us. This isn't an add-on. This isn't a relationship angle to kind of get my way. I'm gonna say so many positive words to my parents by the time I'm 16. New car, slam dunk. I see how this works, Andy, thanks. This isn't that, okay? This isn't an opportunity to leverage something for our benefit. This is a responsibility. It's more than an opportunity. We have been commanded to leverage our words in such a way that others benefit from them. We have been commanded to view every single conversation like a construction site. And we are to leverage our words to build other people up. Just a review from last week, I'll just read it and keep moving. Paul says, because just as God through Christ has loved you, you are to love one another. And here's how you love one another with your words. He says, do not let any unwholesome word, stinky word, come out of your mouths. Only words that are good for building others up. It's a construction site every single time. According to not your needs, not what you need to say, not what you need to hear you say, according to their needs. That it may benefit, not you, may benefit those on the other side of you. And why is this such a big deal for Christians? And why is this such a big deal for Jesus followers? Because we don't just represent ourselves. For us, there's a twist on the application. Remember who you are and what you represent to the people on the other side of you. For us, the application is different. It's remember who you are and who you represent to the person on the other side of you. And who are you? You're more than an employer. You're more than an employee. We're more than neighbors. We're more than people who, hire, contractors and get people to pay people to do stuff for us. We're more than all that. We're Jesus followers. To use Jesus' words, these are his words. This is what he would say. He'd say, let me tell you who you are. Corporately, who you are. Individually, who you are. You have been given an extraordinary opportunity. You are the light, you are the salt of the earth, which means our words should do what salt does: preserve and protect, preserve and protect, never harm or undermine. And sometimes salt isn't welcome, but we care more about the person on the other side of us than we do ourselves, so we're gonna introduce some unwelcome words from time to time because we care about the people on the other side of us. He says, it's not just that. You're the light. This is amazing. You're the light of the world. He would say, you're the light of the world because I'm the light of the world and I'm gonna come live inside of you. And I want your words to light up the world. And I want your words to bring light to the hearts of other people. And I want you to be face to face with people and to say things in such a way that they walk away better. And then he doubles down in case we miss it. He says, you're the light of the world, and you are to let your light shine. You are to be intentional. You are to look for opportunities. Let your light shine and let your words shine in such a way that people look up and connect the dots between who you serve and what you say, between who you follow and how you speak, between who you follow and the attitude you project, between who you are and the fact that they are better off when they walk away from the construction site of your words. Be intentional. Leverage, he says, who you are and what you represent to the person on the other side of you. Use those weighty words to build and encourage. It's an opportunity, but it's more than that. We're Jesus followers. It's a responsibility. And imagine with me. Imagine the influence the church would have in our communities, in our nation, in the world, if we just gotten this right. Imagine the influence, not influence so we can power up and get things to go our way. No, that's not what Jesus says. Even the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve and to give his life a ransom for many. This is not a ploy. This isn't a power play. It's the opposite of a power play. I'm gonna give my power away because I'm not as concerned about what you think about me as I am the fact that you heard what you need to hear so you can be a better person, a better father, a better mother, and a better daughter, and a better employee, and a better citizen. It's an opportunity. Imagine the influence we would have if we had gotten this right, if this was our track record. You know what people would say? And if you're not a Christian or not a religious person, you're like, you are not even kidding. Because it's not what the Christians I know have done. It's what they say. It's what they project. But if we'd gotten this right, the conversation would be different. It would go more like this. Those Christians, they believe some strange, except they wouldn't say stuff. They believe some strange stuff, don't they? Right? But I'll be honest, they are the most encouraging people I've ever met. I will give them that. I mean, every time, even when they say hard things, even when they talk about the stuff they believe, even when they say hard things, I never walk away thinking they're trying to harm me with the hard things. Even though I disagree, I just can't help but have the feeling they really do have my best interest in mind. I don't think I could ever believe some of the stuff they believe. But there's no doubt in my mind that they believe what they say they believe. That is what changed the world for the better one time. Perhaps it could change the world again. When we don't get this right, we lose our right to be heard. We're neither salt nor light. We are what Paul described in 1 Corinthians 13. He said, I don't care how eloquent you are. I don't care how cool your vocabulary is. I don't even care how right you are. If it is not driven by and motivated by concern for the person on the other side of you, if it is not fueled by love, even if your theology is perfect, he says, your words are noise. They are a resounding gong. I thought about bringing one up here, but it is so obnoxious, which is the point. It is a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. And one more time, and I'm sorry to keep dragging you into this. If you're not a Christian, no doubt it was the reckless, unchristlike words of Christians who perhaps drove you away because of what they said to you and about you and what they said about the people you love. And if that's the case, I am sorry. And I hope that somehow you would look beyond us and look to Jesus, who we are struggling to follow. Jesus, you'll love this. This is why, you may hate the church, but you gotta love Jesus because Jesus, he reserved his harshest words for religious people who were careless with their words toward the people that he loved. So for all of us, let's remember who you are, what you represent to the person on the other side of you. Take you into account because source determines weight, and the weight determines the impact, and the impact determines oftentimes the outcome. So leverage your words accordingly. Come look up here. Listen, this is what's so amazing. Take advantage of the unique opportunities you have because of the power and the position you hold with the people around you. This is, as a Christian, this is just one more thing that love requires of us. And we will pick it up right there next time in part 3 of the weight of your words. Heavenly Father, it's a lot easier to stand up here and talk about because as I've just acknowledged to the world, I forget. I don't remember. Help us to remember. Give us eyes to see and ears to hear and the courage to take hold of this and to never let it go. Father, for the students who just need to start talking to mom and dad in a way they've never talked to them before because they realize, oh my goodness, I have an opportunity. For the older brothers, the older sisters, for the husbands and the wives, for the employers, the employees, for neighbors, all the people that we interact with every day. What an amazing opportunity we have, especially those of us who have a little title, a little position, a little authority. So again, just don't let us forget. And I pray that we would say yes to those internal promptings to say those things that they're uncomfortable for us, weren't raised that way, hard to say, but we know we need to say. I pray that through our words, we would be the salt of the earth and the light of the world. In Jesus' name, amen.